old dog. She hangs out with me all the time. And I have something really, really special tonight as we get prepared for our Behind the Veil. And I know those people who are going to miss the Behind the Veil tonight, oh, you're going to miss a treat because I got the little lady with me tonight. You want to tell the people, hey, tell them.
Hi, guys.
She's a little nervous. This is her first time, and she's trying to be a little bit nervous tonight about being on. Oh, you said you wanted to have a YouTube channel, so this is your first time. You gonna act up on your first time with a YouTube channel, or you gonna act cool? Gotta act cool. Cool. All right. All right. And so again, Stephen Williams here, and welcome to Behind the Veil. We're going to talk about Juneteenth tonight, and we're going to talk about Juneteenth, and we're going to talk about the 4th of July. So please, ma'am, please, sir, get your questions ready. But I have a very, very special treat tonight. Me and my this is Mackenzie Alexandra, and this is my girl. Now, listen, Mackenzie, you were how old?
I was 6 when I made this song.
Say, don't laugh. Now you got to talk clear.
I was 6 when I made this song.
So Mackenzie wrote a song when she was 6 years old, and she would sit around the house, and she would do what's the beat that you would have? So that's all done. And so she was just sit around, and I could hear her in that little and then she decided I went upstairs, and I went upstairs and I started. That's when I started playing on the keyboard. And so actually, you all, this was the impetus for the Good Ground Project. I was able to do Mackenzie's song. And so she actually wrote the first verse, and she wrote the hook. And then I wrote the second verse. And then we took it over to the maestro himself, Sir Jordan, and he added the guitars and all that good stuff. Now, this is something that happened. This is Mackenzie's first song that happened when she was 6. And that was like 4 years ago. And she remembered and wanted me to bring it up. So I thought I'd bring her on to talk about it. So tell everybody what were you thinking about, like when you wrote this song? What did you tell me?
When I wrote this song, I was watching Little Mix, and they made this song called Woman's World. And at the time, women were treated like unfairly. So I decided to talk about like how women can be powerful and empowered by themselves and be happy.
Cool. And where did you come up with the little beat from? Or it just came in your head?
It just came in my head. I have a lot of beats in my head.
So did you, because you wrote the first verse, like where did that come from? Do you know? Do you remember? Or you just kind of started writing?
Because at the first verse, when I started, they were starting about, like, you're not just a pretty face, like, you can be strong, you can be whatever you want to be. So that's how I came up with the first verse.
And then I ended up writing a second verse for her. And then we just kind of put the hook. I think the only other person that's on here, I think I'm at the bottom of it. And I think maybe Miss Daphne, maybe Mommy. I don't know who was on it that day. I know Miss Daphne sang on the bottom, maybe.
I think it was Christmas when I got my Barbie house. So, yeah, Miss Daphne and Mom was there.
I think Miss Daphne and Mom and Jordan came, and she actually recorded this in the room. She actually recorded this right here in the living room. And again, you all, she's at the time,
6.
She's 6 years old. And she got me the other day. She said, listen, you cut my career short because you stopped doing my music and you started doing your own.
It's true.
So she said, I just stopped doing. So I've got to continue to go back. We got to start. I got 2 more songs for you that I've been writing. And then we're going to get back on it so that we can do the Mackenzie thing. So listen, this is the debut song for Mackenzie. We're going to come up with some kind of name for her superstar name. And this is her song, y'all. This is me on the music, myself and Jordan, but this is all her idea. And so hopefully we can get us a good old writer in the house who can continue to do what she's doing. And let's see if we can get this done, get this on. Hold on, because I want to make sure I debut this real good. What are we doing? What are we doing? Oh, don't play. Now let's see what we can do. Let's get this off. Let's turn it off. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. This is the debut for Mackenzie.
Daddy, tell me when to say it. Go. Oh, 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 oh. 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 You were born young, you were born smart, you were destined to reach the top. You are beautiful for all to see. You're amazing. If someone should disagree, take this time and stay with me. Every change who you are. You were made to reach the stars. You and you'll go far. Never change who you are. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. You're intelligent, just the way you are. Be a shooting star, no matter what others say. Make you for the day. If someone just disagree, take this time and stay with me. Every change who you are. You were made to reach the stars. Be true to you, and you'll go far. Never change who you are. Never change who you are. You were made to reach the stars. Be true to you, and you'll go far. Never change who you are. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Can I take them off?
Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Come on. Oh, 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 oh. Say it. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Play, Jordan. This is her little dance. She's supposed to be doing a little dance right here at the end. So we left a lot of space for her to do her little steps. Yeah. So now that you know that, and that middle part is what? Never
Change.
sparking them out.
Never change who you are.
You were
made
made to reach the stars. Be
True
true
to
to
you,
you, and
and you'll
you'll
go
go
far.
far. Never
Never change
change.
who
Who
you
you
are.
are. So that's the whole song, y'all. That was Mackenzie's thing from years, 4 years ago. So of course, I got to get back on my job to get her some more music and all that good stuff. But you all heard it here it's only on Behind the Veil that you can debut music and stuff. And this might be a star in the making. And so she's going to do her thing. So thank you so much for letting me debut your music.
You're welcome.
You going to write some more songs?
Probably.
Probably. You're going to get a whole album or at least 5 songs.
I'm gonna try to become a singer, so probably I'm gonna try to make an album.
Yeah. Well, as long as we got your brother, he can help us.
Yeah.
And we'll get it done. All right. Hey, y'all, give it up for Mackenzie.
Bye, guys.
What's that thing you say at the end of your thing on when you get ready to do your on your iPod? When you get ready to do your iPod, do you know? You remember? This is her exit for her show. She's gonna have she's gonna do a YouTube channel later on, and this is gonna be her ending. Go ahead. Can you remember?
Stay awesome. Stay sweet. Don't forget to be nice to others. Bye, guys.
That's it. Stay awesome. Stay sweet, and don't forget to be nice to others. All right.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Gotta go. That's my girl. That's Mackenzie. That's her debut. Thank you, babe. All right. Lord have mercy. Here we go. Wasn't that something? I appreciate you all. I appreciate you all hanging out with me tonight and allowing me to do that with Mackenzie. And she was a little nervous, but I think she'll get it, and she knows exactly kind of what she's doing. We got to train them up in the way that they should go. All right. So that's her gig. That's her song. And I'm going to get on my job and get her moving and shaking and stuff like that. All right, y'all. I didn't have a guest tonight. I didn't have a guest because I wanted to really talk about this Juneteenth thing. And I actually asked for some people to come and be a part. And so I really want you to get your questions concerning this. And here we go, talking about this whole thing, Juneteenth versus the 4th of July. And it's going to be enlightening. All right. So let me switch out of this and let me put on my other thing, and then we're going to get started. Okay. All right. So here we go tonight. Awesome job, Mackenzie. Good job. That's my girl. She's doing her thing. All right. And that was 4 years ago. So y'all can only imagine we're gonna make it better. All right, for her. Listen, so here we are on Juneteenth, and I ended up doing a bunch of studying. Like I said before, I did ask some people to come and be a part. And be a part of this, but I couldn't find a guest to really be able to discuss tonight. So I decided to do what I do best as we go behind the veil. And as we're beginning to talk more and more about Juneteenth. So Juneteenth snuck up on us, if you will, because I don't know if it was on anybody's radar that they were getting ready to make this a national holiday. A federal holiday. If you're like me, a lot of us heard about Juneteenth, but we didn't really know. We really didn't know about it. Now, wait a minute. There are some people who knew about it, and then there's some people who claim they knew about it and talking about they always celebrate it, but they ain't never said nothing to nobody else. And so all they did was went down there and ate and all that good stuff, and ain't never really had nothing. Ain't nobody put up no signs, celebrate Juneteenth. Ain't nobody said that. I don't care what y'all say. Ain't nobody said that. Few people would get together and then we meet and everybody would talk about it, but we really didn't know what the heck Juneteenth was. In fact, I've been Black all my life. I've been in North Carolina all my life. And this is the first time that, and I've worked for my for my job for 23 years. And this is the first time in all of that time that they decided to give us the day off. It was so bad, most people didn't even know that we were supposed to take the day off. And then they didn't even know why. And so Juneteenth versus the 4th of July. Get get ready. If you have any questions tonight, I want you to raise them, because some of you are going to know a little bit more than I will. But you know me, I done studied everything. I done read everything that I could possibly read, and so that I can have good conversation. All right. So what is this Juneteenth about? When I actually came back and I started, the first thing I had to do was find out, okay, Juneteenth, 1865 is when we got it. It's when they are celebrating it. All right. So, of course, I had to go back. And when I went back to the Emancipation Proclamation. All right. Then I had to go back further than that just to simply find out what was going on in the atmosphere. And this whole thing was really centered around this notion of there was this uproar, if you will. This is right before um, Abraham Lincoln. And there was this whole notion that they wanted to get rid of slaves. All right. And they wanted to get rid of slaves. And so Abe, good old Abe, we talk about him all the time. Abe became the president. Well, he became the president like in 1860, something like that, 1860, 1861. And at the time that he was becoming president, right before that, he was actually pushing, and there was this whole group of people who was pushing to, they were pushing to get they were pushing to get slavery abolished in the South. All right, because the North had been going at it, and they were becoming a little bit more modernized. And so this was 4 or 5 years before, 5 or 6 years before uh, Abraham Lincoln came in, and he ran on that ticket to free the slaves. Now, this was killer for those Southern slaves, because all of their information, everything about them, needed slaves to do it, because slavery, which is what we get mad about, they get a head start on cotton and all of that. You're going to ask, what does the church have to do with this? I'm going to tell you in a minute. And so they get all of this stuff. This is stuff you all know. They got free labor for years. And so they are way ahead of the game, because they got all of this stuff, but they did not have to pay labor. So let's think about it for a minute, that whatever company you work for, whatever they're going to get out of you, can you imagine that they're getting all the work out of you and they are not having to pay you a dime? All the money that you bring to your company, and then they don't pay you at all. They give you raggedy housing, and they let you sit down on that housing for a little bit. They feed you crappy food. You don't get the good food, and you got to work like 10, 12-hour shifts. You got to go from sun up to sundown. So the South was raking in with cotton, corn, wheat, whatever it is that they were having, this free labor. And Abraham Lincoln wanted to run on the premise that he was going to free the slaves. So now, I'm telling you now, this is why they shot that man, because they were like, you have taken away the whole thing. You took it away. You took it. You took everything about us. They were upset because he wanted to run on that premise. Now, this is important because he had the Union states that were really doing good, but it was just the Southern states. And this was a young country. So the 4th of July had already happened in 1776, right? So we got this emancipation from England. They fought, And a lot of our African American people struggle, or a lot of the Black Americans, because I'm not African American, and I'm gonna prove that point to you in a minute. I'm a Black American, and I was born here, and I am a citizen, and I want to be clear that I'm a Black American, all right, and I'm a citizen of the United States of America. That's going to be important in a minute. I'm going to show you in a minute. And so the blacks were Abraham Lincoln was trying to do that because the North was doing real good. And so the Civil War went from 1861. It started in 1861 and it actually ended in 1865. So Juneteenth is around the time that it ended, but that wasn't the last date. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And so when Abe Lincoln gets there, Abe Lincoln, this is like in 1861, war breaks out. They broke out in Civil War because he got in office. Once he got in office, they knew his agenda was to get rid of the slaves. All right? He wanted to free the slaves. And I read something that was so funny. He had written the Emancipation Proclamation right after the war started. And but they were losing. They had lost the battles. So he did not release it because the Union was getting a tail whipped by the Confederates. That's why we see, and now growing up, y'all, now it makes a lot of sense when we look at the Dukes of Hazzards and they have the Confederate flags. Just the good old boys, never meaning no harm. You fight and do the law. I used to watch that every Friday, didn't even think anything about it, but it was the supporting of the Confederates and making sure that they kept this whole notion of slavery. And that's why the Confederate flag is so offensive, because they fought to keep slavery. And they don't understand that. When you go down in Davidson County, Davie County, whatever it is, if you go down near Rockingham, these people they still got their big old flags. When you go to race cars, and they just abolished those big old flags, the Confederate flags, because this is what it meant, is that we wanted to make sure we keep everybody black that was a slave. We wanted to keep them as slaves. Now, there are free people in the North, but this whole thing was about freeing all the black slaves. All right. And so here are the southern states. So when this thing jumps off in 1860 and it starts breaking out, this is just a little history lesson. All right. And it was economic. What was happening is that Abraham Lincoln wasn't so much interested in freeing the slaves as he was keeping the economy of this young country. And the North was progressing so well. And what he was trying to do was turn the corner to progress this young America. As a result, what he was doing was saying, I need to free the slaves because I can sense that we are about to become a little bit more modern. And owning somebody at that time started, messing with his mind. So, all right. And so I'm getting there. I'm getting to Juneteenth. And so this is what this was. So the Southerners had invested 84% of the capital invested in manufacturing. It was invested in free non-slave holding states. So 84% of the capital was really, so he was looking at it's less than 20% that's really hanging out in the South. I need to change this. And so when they did that, the whites got they went berserk. They went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And they said, no way. We're not getting ready to have that. This was all after the Mexican-American War of 1848. I mean, this is all this. And the Republican Party, actually, Lincoln was a candidate of the explicitly, can y'all get this? Lincoln was a candidate, and he ran for the Republican Party who was anti-slavery. My, haven't things changed? Oh, haven't things changed? He was a Republican. And that's why a lot of people want you to become Republican, because initially, when you start talking about this dude, Abraham Lincoln, they didn't want slaves. And so he won the presidency in 1860. Well, 1861, them jokers pulled a coup. 1861, they decided we bouncing. We getting out of here because he's getting ready to change. And 11, I think 11 or 13 of the states decided that they wanted to get out from the United States. And they actually did create the Confederate States, the Confederation. They actually just eradicated and got out of the United States. And so with them leaving, it was getting ready to kill the economy. So Lincoln, as much as he is celebrated for freeing the slaves, he did not do this willingly. He did this trying to make sure he could keep the financial sovereignty of this young United States. Listen to what they did. Listen to what they did in 1862. So Lincoln, I told you, came in 1860, right? So, and they started this war in August of 1861. The slaveholders claimed property rights to begin, and they did a first act of what they call Confiscation Act. And that means Union troops to seize the rebels' property, including slaves who fought with and worked for the Confederate military. So they instituted an act that they could actually confiscate slaves. This is what the Union did. And so they made it legal that they could actually steal the slaves from the South and move them to the North. They put that as a law. It's called the first act of confiscation. Boy, that was funny to me. I was like, dog, so y'all just gonna make up a law that you can steal black people from the people in the South and put them in the Union. And what they ended up doing, that made them so oh my God, they went berserk over that. And with the slaves manning the factories and they were manning the fields, about 80% of eligible white Southern men would wind up serving in the military. All right. And they called anybody who was behind the line slaves contrabands. They were considered contrabands of war, and they were not liable to return to their masters. Now, this is what Congress did that I thought was absolute crazy. I'm getting ready to get to Juneteenth. Y'all sit with me. We're going down history. So in 1862, guess what they did? Congress abolished slavery in the District of Columbia. Listen to what they did. So the South, they had already abolished slavery in the North. Right? And guess what they did? They paid the owners in the District of Columbia, on the average, $300 a slave. They paid $300 a slave to free them in the District of Columbia. All right, now I don't mean nothing to y'all, but that's a hot mess. And so you had slaves, and then you got paid from the government to give this, and you got $300 for every last one of them. So here it is again, wealth on top of wealth being accumulated. All right, then they wrote a second Confiscation Act, which mandated that any Confederate civilian or military official who did not surrender within 60 days would have his slaves freed. 2 days after that, Congress banned slavery from the territories. So it was already banned. Slavery was already banned in the Union, but it was not in the South. And so they went through this whole thing of going through going through with this, and this is where Lincoln then comes in 61 and 62, and he sees he's not getting anywhere. So the war is all they're beginning to fight. It's on. Everybody's fighting, and then in 1863, the word gets out. Word gets out in 1862 that Abraham Lincoln is going to do an Emancipation Proclamation. Now, I went back and I read the Emancipation Proclamation like it was the Biblication. And I read it line for line. And I read it precept upon precept. I actually studied it, looked at the words. And so in 1862, he had written this. But because they had not had any major victories, he didn't release it. This is why everybody knew it was coming. This is why everybody knew it was coming, because it had already been written in 62, 66, the end of 61, going into 62. And he had this Emancipation Proclamation that it was going to release all the slaves. Here is the trigger point. The trigger point was the Emancipation. This is what some historians say. The Emancipation Proclamation was actually a bluff, because the Confederate people, the Confederate states, had already established their own country. So they at that time was no longer under the rule of Abraham Lincoln. And so when he wrote this, he wrote that every slave would be free. He wrote this only for the southern states, because at that time they were the only ones who had slaves, because the Union that he served had already been free. They got free in 62, according to this. That's when the Congress said in 62 that they would be free. So his Emancipation Proclamation was really a bluff. He told them in the South, we're going to free your slaves. But in all actuality, they had already distanced themselves from the South. From the North. So he really didn't technically have any jurisdiction over them. So he used this mechanism as a bluff, and he also used the mechanism so that the blacks in the South could run north. He made it so that they could run north, because if you could say, if the proclamation got out that the slaves in the South were free, all they had to do was get to the North. Well, so this is why saints of the Most High God. All right, here go church. Here's one of the things why it's behind the veil. All right. On December 31st, this is where watch night service comes from. Watch night service was not what we made it now. Watch night service was not looking to come into the new year. I'm not trying to get rid of watch night service. I'm just telling you where watch night service came from. Don't get mad at me. The black people, started watch night service. Why were they watching it? Because they wanted to know if Abraham Lincoln was going to release the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1. And they used watch night service as the mechanism to pray that Abraham Lincoln would release the Emancipation Proclamation. So now you're going to ask me, how did they know? I told y'all he had already written it, but he couldn't release it because he had to wait for victories from the Union. And it's a shame. The Union had more people, like 23 million people, and the Confederates only had like 11 million people or something crazy like that. It was double. And so the blacks were waiting on on New Year's Eve. And that's where the black church, the black American, started watch night service. They were watching and praying and hoping and dancing and believing for freedom. We turned watch night service into something else, eating breakfast. I don't know what we turned it into, but it really was them waiting to see if Lincoln was going to release this emancipation. The emancipation then was released on January 1. This is where it comes into place. And he goes through this whole thing. I'm not going to go into all that. Y'all got to go back and read the Emancipation Proclamation because it's interesting. All right, it's really interesting. And so he commanded the Army and the Navy of the United States at that time, but they were the United States. But remember, there is this whole notion of the Confederates and the ones who had rebelled, so they were not a part of the United States of America. But he used that as a ploy to get everybody in the South to release their slaves. All right. And so what else did I write? Oh man, this was so good to me. I should have been a history teacher. And so when they get there, he releases this Emancipation Proclamation. Now, all the while, remember, I told you the Civil War is going on. In 61 is when it started. A year after Lincoln took office, there is war. And he is in this. And I think at this time, they did not have this 4-year term. I'm not even sure they had the 4-year term. I'm not sure when that was developed, but I'll go back to that because I'm going to get to that in a minute. And so they get into it. And maybe they did, because that means he would have to have run again in 60, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. But he was still in office in 65. All right. And so as they did that, here is this whole fighting, war, fighting, getting up, fighting. Listen to what they did with the troops. All right, y'all, this is going to be bananas. So the U.S. Armed Forces, let me tell you what they did. Boy, look, we've been behind the curveball so much. It's a shame and a disgrace, America. The black troops who was in the U.S. Armed Forces and the white troops. Check this out. The white troops, the white privates made $13 a month, and their uniforms were paid for. Get this. The blacks earned $10 a month, with $3 being deducted each month to cover the cost of their uniform. So they gave them 10, took 3 every month, gave the white soldier got 13 a month, and his uniform was free. So we free. So they got 13 and we got 7 every month fighting at the same war. They done already started off not doing right. Amen. They still hadn't done right in a long time. All right. All right. And so he releases this Emancipation Proclamation. I want to get to those states because that was really funny. All right. So here are the Confederate states. All right. These are the ones who did not want slavery. I mean, who wanted slavery. They did not want to abolish. Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, who just changed the voting laws, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. And when you look at all of these states, they still got the spirit of the Confederate wrapped around. Don't y'all come at me. Don't you come over here. Don't you come over here. Y'all stay where you are in Texas and Louisiana and all them. I know if you're born there, I'm just telling you what the facts are. If you look at Texas now, Arkansas, Louisiana, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, with the exception of Atlanta, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, they are all to this day still Republican states, and they hold fast the views of a Confederate mentality where they want the spirit of suppression. And they wait a minute, I feel like I felt like I was preaching there, but I felt like I was a politician. But I'm not going to be y'all politician. I'm Stephen Williams. They call me the good bishop. I preach for a living. All right. I'm not going to do this. But these are the states. Y'all see the spirit that's over those states. And then Jefferson Davis ended up being the president over the Confederate. And these were what they call the border states: Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, Kentucky, and Missouri. They were all considered the border states. And what does that mean? Some of them were in, some of them were out. Some of them were in. But if you look at Missouri, if you look at Kentucky, that's where one of the senators, I ain't gonna call his name, senator who don't ever want to vote for nothing, he come out of Kentucky. West Virginia, y'all better stay out of West Virginia. Delaware, now Maryland, I don't know about Maryland. Maryland got some good stuff. They got good food in Maryland, and they they out now. But these were the states, and if you can look at that, there was still some remnants of that. Look, more than 100 years later. All right. And so the Union states were just, I mean, they were all the rest of them. I don't want to get into all that. And so what he did was, oh, my time is, and so what he did was, when he released it, it began this whole thing. So the question on the floor was about this Juneteenth. All right. I hope this is good. If this is good, y'all put some hearts in there. This is good information for Behind the Veil. And so what they ended up doing was the North started winning, the South would win some, the North would win some, and blacks were on both sides. Blacks were on both sides fighting. And whites, of course, people wanted to keep what they wanted to keep, and and this whole value of the slave, they were trying to get this. And so they went through all of that. And this war then gets somewhere. And y'all know how bad it was. They were talking about 800,000 people died in this particular war on the grounds. And then it was horrible. Civil War, people was killing, mamas, daddies, brothers, sisters. Everybody was turned against each other, much like they do, much like we had when we did this insurrection on January 6th, February 6th, January 6th, or February 6th, whichever, January 6th. And there's this split where you're going to take over the Capitol, where it's us against them. And that's what this whole thing is about. And so when we start talking about Juneteenth, again, the people in the North was already freed in 1962, according to Congress. But the people in the South, they had not been freed. And when we start looking at it, they go back and forth. And so here is where we get to the end of it. All right. I'm not going to keep you long. I just want to talk about this Juneteenth, why we should be celebrating it, why it is important, why, just like everything else, they kept a lot of this information from us. Just like we didn't know about the hidden figures. We had to find that out in a movie. Y'all didn't teach us none of that when I was in school. We ain't know nothing about no Catherine Jackson. Amen. I think that was her name. The smart lady who helped the man. We knew about the people going to the moon, but we didn't know who was the ones that was behind the people going to the moon. And they have kept so much history from us until it is so horrible now that we don't even act like we are proud to be black. We are still killing one another, which makes absolutely no sense. When you look back at your history, you can find out what it took for us to even exist. And so for us to be murderous of each other and killing each other, it absolutely makes no sense when so many people was trying to get us free and we wanted to stay bound. It's completely ridiculous. Stop shooting one another. Cut it out. Cut it out. Stop that killing. Especially black on black crime. That don't even make no sense. All right. And so April 9, 1865. I'm going to fast forward. April 9, 1865. This is why it took so long for the people in the South to know that they were free. So let's go back. April 9th, 1865. That is when General Lee surrendered his Confederate troops to Ulysses S. Grant. He did this at a Appomattox courthouse in Virginia. So he is all the way in Virginia. All right. Now, the war is still going on. So on April 9th, 1865, Lee surrendered. But it took 16 months before Andrew Johnson declared a formal end of the Civil War. So they say it ended in 1865, but it really didn't end till 1866. Here was what the problem was. Lee had surrendered in April, on April 9th. Y'all ready for this? Then word spread to another Confederate general, Joseph E. Johnston, Army of Tennessee. He was the second largest Confederate army. So they sent word to him. And on April 12th, he was in North Carolina. So they sent word down from Virginia to North Kakalaki and told Johnston, Lee just gave up the ghost. So on April 12th, Lee gave, Johnston surrendered. Listen to this. The next day, General William T. Sherman's Union cavalry, he captured Raleigh because Raleigh wasn't captured. They were winning. And he gave up because Lee gave up. He heard Lee gave up, so he gave up. And they came and they discussed the terms and they got all of this. And so here are the two things. Y'all ready? April 15th, they took Lincoln out. That's when they killed him. They got him on the 15th. They shot him because they knew that they had lost their ground on holding you and I and our ancestors hostage. What does that remind you of? When people feel like they are losing ground on holding you hostage, they get to shooting. They get to trying to kill you for no reason. They get to storming the Capitol and they get off scot-free and nothing happens to them when they feel like they're losing their ground. Don't leave me, y'all. This is good stuff. And then Johnson gave up his 90,000 soldiers. And so the word started traveling. Now, saints of the Most High, this is why Juneteenth, everybody say, why did it take so long? Chilling. They didn't have no cellophone. They didn't have no horse and buggies like that. They didn't have cars. They didn't have planes. Wasn't no Facebook. So what they had to do was they had to send couriers west because the whole fight for slaves, I love this part. The whole fight for slaves was so that they could make slaves west. That's why they were fighting in the territory. They wanted to solidify that they could keep on having slaves west. And so that's where you get this. And they started going west. They started getting over their feet, word of mouth, that we's free now. We's free. We free. We's free. We free. The war is over. We free. The war is over. And it took a minute for them to travel to get the word. We should have been free. Wait a minute. Wait for it as I slap you. We should have been free in 62 when Congress freed the slaves. You had to go through a fight to get free and you should have been free on April 9th in 1865. That's what we should have been. But because people want to hold you hostage, and you are allowing these people to hold you hostage and make you feel less than and make you act like you don't know who you are. You are beautiful. You are strong. You are resilient. You are everything you were made. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And that's why I wanted to sing. I wanted to use my daughter's song. You are strong. You were destined to reach the stars. And if don't nobody agree with you, get you a oh. That's what she was saying. Oh. That's what she was trying to say. Oh. You were born strong. You were born smart. My 6-year-old then daughter gets the revelation. And we still fighting with our own selves about our own greatness. And here we are, should have been free in 62. But it took them a long time to get this word. They were actually still fighting when the word came to Galveston, Texas. They were still fighting in Texas. In fact, what some historians are saying is that the Confederates was actually winning. They were actually winning in those states. But they got word that Lee had given up, and then Johnson. So Lee had the largest, and then Johnston had the second largest. So he got free in Virginia, and then Johnston heard about it in North Carolina, and he gave up the ghost. So now they feel like, oh God, we're losing. And they bring those forces, and here they are. I thought this was interesting. They were still fighting that on May 10th. So it was April, and then there's May, right? April's, and then there's May's. Near Brownsville, Texas, on May 12th, a force of 350 Confederates under the leadership of John Rip Ford, 350 of them defeated 800 Union troops led by Theodore Back at the Battle of Palmetto Ranch. I don't even know I ain't never heard of that. And so they were still fighting in May, and they were getting their tail whooped. So the word came. The word started spreading, and they were still going at it. Even on May 26th, Smith surrendered because he heard that a Lieutenant Smith, he was the last Confederate force. He was still in the field fighting on May 26th. And so here they are going. They were going westward, trying to get the information that the Civil War was over. And so this is why they ended up on June 19th is when they go to Galveston, Texas. And that's where they got the word in Galveston that the war was over. So that was the black man's celebration. All right. So this is in June. Guess what? In August of 1865, they were still fighting in the West. They were still fighting. There was a guy named Lieutenant Commander James Waddell. Man, he was still fighting in August. So June, July, And then there was in August. In August, he was still fighting. And so the people further west didn't even know that it was over. They were still warring in 1865 of August. And so Juneteenth becomes the celebration. Now, here comes the church again. Y'all ready? Here come where the church is. Y'all ready? I'm going to help y'all. Can I tell y'all what they did when they first heard the word that they was free? I'm going to tell you what they did. And I thought this was funny. I wanted to let you know. That the first thing they did on June 19th, when it was finally announced that more than 250 enslaved Black people in the state were free by executive decree. I'm going to tell you what they did. They did something that we don't do. They created prayer service. See, our ancestors, whether you know it or not, the first thing they did was not throw a party and get drunk. The first thing they did was prayed. They had an actual prayer service in Texas, and they celebrated and danced freedom, and they wore different colors for Juneteenth. They had on all of these multicolors, and much like some people that took the colors from us, but they had multicolors. Why? Because it was supposed to be for celebration, and it was supposed to be light, and it was supposed to be all of this. Now you got to be careful now if you have a whole lot of colors on, because it means something else now. But in that particular day, the first thing they did was they went to church. They went to church on Juneteenth. And that was the final decree that they had heard, that Blacks were actually free. So the war was over. The war was still coming to being over. The Civil War still wasn't over, but that June 19th was the last thing of the fighting that they had in the Texas area. And that was supposed to be the last stronghold, even though they were still, and that was in Galveston Bay, even though they were still fighting in August of 65. They were still getting down in August of 65. And so they kept going on, and all these people. That is why we are supposed to be celebrating Juneteenth, because it really is the final draw, if you will, of the struggle that happened in 1862. And now here they are, 1862, they're free, but they can't really function in freedom until there is a final decree in 65, 3 whole years later, before they could get free. Wait a minute, 20 years later, after we've been celebrating the 4th of July for all 50 some odd of my years, they done told us about the 1776, and we done come up on the ocean blue, and don't shoot them till you see the whites of their eyes. We've done all of that. We've done all of that. Yeah, don't shoot them. Paul Revere and who this and the Tea Party and the Boston Tea Party. They done told us all of that, but they didn't tell us that we were free. They kept that information from you. And as long as they're going to keep, y'all ready? I feel a slap coming our way. This is why it's important for you to stop acting like there's only 6 cuss. You ain't but 6 cuss words in the dictionary. Learn some more words. Learn some more words. All y'all doing is compounding 6, 7. Y'all go and get it. Y'all know the words. 6 or 7 cuss words. It's all you want to talk. And all Black people want to do. Listen, there is so much more. Why? They hide it in information. And if they can hide it in the information, they can keep you bound when you should be free. I felt preachy right there. I felt the anointment. You should be free. Side note, this is why you need a good pastor to give you information and not religion. The only reason why you bound, people perish because of lack of knowledge. That's in that same book that you don't want to read. So that's what Juneteenth was about. And so we're getting ready to celebrate the 4th of July. I'm going to celebrate it because we're going to eat some hot dogs and all that good stuff. But isn't it a shame that we should be celebrating twice? The fact that we live in a free country, but we weren't free on July 4th, 1776. I think that's what it was. Now, we weren't free. We were in a country, but we were not free. All right. And then we had to wait till a civil war, and Lincoln said we were free. And then by the time the war was over, they had done killed him. And then they had to wait to June because the war, the decree had to travel that the Civil War was over, and they still kept on fighting. They kept on fighting because the word needed to keep going west. That lieutenant that I told you about, that last guy who was fighting in August of 1865, that joker left and went to London. He went to London and took the Confederate flag, and he got up out of here. Wait a minute. He went back to where they were supposed to be free from, England. He said, I don't like them so bad. I'm going back to where I came from. That is the whole notion of the Juneteenth. So New Year's Eve service didn't have nothing to do with what's that we do? Black Eyed Peas and watch night service, and you got to eat a certain thing, collard greens, so you can be wealthy the next year. No, you're gonna be wealthy if you work and put your mind to it. If you stop spending and save, that's what you're gonna be wealthy about. See, we create traditions and don't even realize where the traditions come from. Only here on Behind the Veil. We're supposed to be a little church segment, but we're more than a church segment. We're learning information. We're more than just that. We're trying to become people. And what they did was they thanked God on Juneteenth. So what I need for us to do when we get ready to celebrate Juneteenth next year, first thing you ought to do is be thankful unto the Lord that God got you out. You're going to be like, well, the white man got us in. All right, with that same white God. Okay. White God got you in. White God got you out. Y'all crazy. It's God. He's a spirit. They that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. I don't want to become preachy on Behind the Veil. Yes, Evelyn, watch night was a night of fear. The owners would lease out or sell the slave, and they didn't know if Lincoln was actually going to put out the Emancipation Proclamation. They used watch night service as a mechanism in hopes that Lincoln was going to free the black slaves. Yes. So that watch night service was not a service where they were just jumping up and down. Honey, they were nervous, and they were praying, and they were holding hands, and they would come by here, good Lord, come by here. Oh, Lord, come by here. We need you, Lord. And they were just doing that because they wanted to make sure that Lincoln was going to hold up his end of the bargain. That's what it was for. Now, I ain't got no problem with celebrating, but let's get it for what it's really about. Maybe we ought to do watch night service for freedom for the next year, because we've been bound from the year before. Bound in our money, bound in our mind, bound in our service. How about we do watch night service for that? Anyway, and so that's the whole notion of this proclamation. Now this is where, and remember on Juneteenth next year, we're going to have this party and we're going to have a cookout. But when you wake up in the morning, I'm going to need you to do what they did. I'm going to need you to thank God. I'm going to need you to carry a prayer service first before you go running anywhere, shaking everything that your mama gave you. You just be shaking it and drinking and just getting all loose and partying. But that's not what they did. That's not the first thing that they did. And people can say they were brainwashed. You can say what you want to say. They were thankful that they became free. And they really still, I feel like running. They still didn't get free because then America changed the rules and made it a reconstruction period from 65 to 77. Another 12 years. They changed the rules. So you couldn't be super free unless you was in the North. And you still couldn't be but so free. Hey, and here is a side note for those of you who waited for me. Here is a side note. And I'm getting ready to go. Here's a side note. This is why the South has so many monuments of Confederate leaders. You only have those monuments of the Confederate leaders in the South. Guess what? Like Fort Bragg, it's named after a Confederate general, which is why they wanted to get rid of Fort Bragg. They wanted to get rid of the name. His name was something Bragg, and he fought for the Confederates. And a lot of the army bases are named after those generals. That was a part of the agreement. A part of the agreement is that they wanted to continue to celebrate those generals in the South for their efforts, which is why y'all start seeing all of these monuments coming down, but they don't have monuments like that up in Maine, up in Boston, they don't have monuments. Most of those monuments are in the South, Alabama, all those 11 states that were the Confederates, because they wanted to keep a presence of their purpose, because they did not want to lose their product of cotton, of wheat. Even though the slave was free, everybody couldn't go north. And so that's where we get this whole thing called sharecropping from. Because you could work the crop, but you have to live on their land. Ain't that something? So they still kept them enslaved under the Reconstruction. But I can't get into that. They were trying to reunite, 200 years of enslavement, such as change in short. And so that's this whole notion. And so where you may see some Black people who do not subscribe to the 4th of July. Now, we will take the vacation off work. Thank you, Jesus. We won't go to work. We'll take the holiday. But you'll see some Black people do not celebrate in the magnitude the 4th of July. I agree with you, Evelyn. Just rename it. That's what I say too. Just rename it. And but because on the 4th of July, Blacks still were slaves. And this is why Juneteenth was important. Now listen to this irony. Texas was actually the first state to make Juneteenth like a holiday. Big Texas. And they are still Confederate to me. But they did it, and a lot of us didn't know about it. My mother had never talked about it. I hadn't heard about it in church. Yeah, PBS has some great documentaries. They sure do. And we need to go educate ourselves. Thank you, Evelyn. We need to go educate ourselves. And that's why Juneteenth was not just a day for us to go downtown and celebrate. It was an actual day that the decree from the emancipation had actually worked. And before Lincoln could enjoy it, they killed him. And anytime you see a president that's trying to work towards giving advantage to Black Americans, JFK, they take them out. O, U, and the T. They got Bill too. They didn't kill him, but they killed him. I guess he killed himself. Lord Jesus, he hurt his own self. Now, so the 4th of July, should you celebrate it? Yeah, go get you a hot dog because you live in a free country. But please understand that the 4th of July did not free Black America. Now you're gonna ask me something, and I had to look this up, all right? Because this is what got me, Gloria. I then went to, and I gotta close. I then went to, because this is during that time they started passing the articles, Congress, the articles. The Constitution as amendments. Articles be proposed by the legislature, amendments to the Constitution of the United States, all or any of which of the articles should be. And so here are the articles, the amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. So what they did was they have this Constitution for United States of America. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Y'all remember that from Schoolhouse Rock. And so what they did was they started having these amendments to the Constitution. And this is where we get Amendment 1. Man, I went back and looked at it. Man, look, prohibiting the free exercise of abiding the freedom of speech and press. Religion is in there, number 1. In Amendment number 2, it gave the states and the persons the right to bear arms. It shall not be infringed upon. Number 3 of the amendment, it said people can't come and take your house. Soldiers must have been going in people's houses in war and in peacetime, just taking over people's stuff. And yes, it was for the Caucasians. It was not for Black America, the 4th of July. But I'm still going to eat that hot dog. I'm still going to do it. Yes, I am. But it really was not for Black America. Y'all only going to find this on Behind the Veil. Listen, check me out. This is item number 13. Amendment number 13, which was passed. Listen to this. It was passed by Congress January 31st, 1865. So they had already passed the 13th Amendment in January. And then they ratified it in December, on December 6th, 1865. So they had already passed the 13th Amendment before the war was over. They had already passed it on January 31st, before the war was over. The war wasn't over. Lee didn't give up until April. Lincoln was shot on the 15th. Lee gave up on the 9th. Johnson gave up on the 12th. You didn't get the word that we were all free until Juneteenth in Texas. Everybody else was free. Or at least they thought they were. Listen what they said. Section 1. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. So they had already put in, and then they put in a section 2 in December that says Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So they were supposed to get rid of slavery, and they put the power the um, in the hands of Congress to be able to enforce it so that there is not any slavery that's going on. This is what I wanted to get to. And this is why I wanted to tell y'all, this whole notion of you being African American. Listen to what it says in 14, because if you know me, I'm nosy. I read the rest of them. So in 1868, it says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the states wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. See, we've been having the right because we are naturally born citizens. We're supposed to have the equal protection of the law. And then when you're going to put yourself and make yourself from Africa, no, you are a Black American and you have rights and privileges. Nobody is supposed to do this. Listen to what these people wrote in here, and it's still in here. It's a hot mess. Representatives shall be apportionated among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of the person in each state. Listen to this: excluding Indians not taxed. That's actually India. Oh my God. And they said, listen to this. But when the right to vote of any election of the choice of the electors for the president, vice president of the United States, and it goes on to go in, the right to vote is left up to the citizens. The right, listen to Amendment 15, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or privilege or previous condition of servitude. You have a right to vote just by virtue of being here. And people are fighting to vote, and you people won't even go vote. What the world? When you got the right to do it. It's right here written in the blacks and the whites, in the amendments from the Constitution. You got privileges. They came on and said, now they had to add some stuff because they said the right to vote, you couldn't even, whatever the sex is, you can't even deny me. I am a citizen. You cannot deny me the right to vote. You can come up with all this foolishness if you want to. You can try to do it. You can come up with all these little laws and all these little other stuff. But when you know what you know, and you know who you know, and you know what you are, you should have the right to be celebrating your blackness. Don't be ashamed of your blackness. It took some work for us to get free, and it's a shame that they have denied us the information. They denied us the information. They denied us the information. And now, because of the internet, you ain't got no business not knowing something. Go figure it out. Go write it. Go look it up. If you don't know it, call somebody. Call me. I'm nosy. I like to find out everything. Call me. I want to know everything. I do. It's your right. It's your privilege. This is what Juneteenth was. Now, here's the insult. Are you ready? I had to find this stuff out. Ask me, did I hoopla on Juneteenth? What did we say? Honey, we ain't going out to 5 o'clock. You know it's hot. We can't go out to 5 to 7. And so I didn't really celebrate like I should have. Because it's the day that blacks were free. And I don't know, even to my white audience, you can help us celebrate. And it still hasn't been done right, if you will. All right. There were still some obstacles that we've had to face that we shouldn't have to face as a race of people. Y'all talking about 18. Y'all, come on. Y'all know people were still lynched in 1920, 1930, 1940, 1950. What's the young boy that was beaten up because he whistled at the white lady? Emmett Till. Come on, Tulsa. Tulsa was a black, debated whether or not the black man was with the white girl, and then she cried. Listen, it's been going on for a long time, and it hasn't been fair, but it's been written, and you have rights and privileges, and we haven't celebrated because we so busy hikamasayan, and we so busy mad. You're mad at the church and can't even celebrate your own blackness. Don't blame that on the church. Please don't blame that on me. I'm just trying to teach the gospel. Rosewood, thank you. Evelyn, girl, I don't know who you are, but I'm glad you're here. Evelyn, Rosewood in Tulsa. It's a hot mess. And the only, I'm closing off of this. The only reason that they pushed this through the law, I want you to call his name George Floyd. The only reason why it was important this year, we had a black president, and he didn't even say nothing about no Juneteenth. Bill was there, and we didn't say, ain't nobody said nothing about Juneteenth. The only reason why Juneteenth became important is because the George Floyd situation became a national and international event. And they needed to do something to celebrate blacks. The last one that we got, the last federal holiday, was Martin Luther King. And they put all of the Martin Luther King signs only on the black side of town. Juneteenth, they only did it because of George Floyd. They only did it because of George Floyd, and the world had their eyes on us for how America has treated the free black man and woman. And they realize it's on paper, but it's not in their heart. And that's why that thing moved real quick. Juneteenth moved so quick, it blew all our mind. Many of us didn't even know that the thing was up for no federal holiday. We did not. And I'm saying to us, let's not just use it as another day when like Memorial Day, like Memorial Day. What's the other day? Labor Day. Don't wear white after Labor Day. Ain't that right? Don't wear white after Labor Day. That's what I know about it. I know some of y'all still do. You be breaking the rules. Don't be wearing no white after Labor Day, right? And then you get old President's Day. Oh, I'm from upstate North Carolina, and we celebrate King and Juneteenth. Thank y'all so much. Because down south here, they done kept that stuff from us. We didn't know. It's our fault we didn't know, though. Because we got to do a better job of knowing our history. Yo, that's my thing tonight from Juneteenth. I just wanted to share some stuff with you. I'm not sure I'll be here next week. I probably will be. I got to get my subject matter intact because I want to talk about some stuff. I got some stuff I need to talk about. We didn't have y'all didn't have a choice in the North. Yeah, well, we didn't even know about it. We didn't even know about it. They kept this stuff. Wait a minute, they didn't put it in our books. They didn't tell us about it. They didn't even give it to us. And somebody has got to go back and rewrite this history because y'all lied. Y'all put all this stuff in the books, but you didn't put the whole truth. You only put the part of the side that you wanted us to know and celebrate. And now we're educating ourselves. Juneteenth is important. Don't just treat it like another day. Whatever you do, don't just treat it like another day off. Don't do that. It was important. People died. People really died to be free. And we're warring over stuff that we have no business warring over. Juneteenth is important. The 4th is important. Celebrate it. You're in a free country. We're not in Germany. We're not in Kuwait. We're not in Istanbul, whatever that is. We're not in China. We're not in North or South Korea. Thank God. I celebrate it. But there are still, I can celebrate my country. I can celebrate being here, but I can still challenge them on some of the things that they're wrong about. And if you're not going to be challenged, you'll never be changed. If nobody can challenge you, you're going to always stay the same. Let somebody challenge you to make you better. I'm doing it tonight to help you be a little bit better. All right? That's what I want you to do. I want you to be better. I want you to be better. I got to go. This is Mackenzie.
Daddy, tell me when to say it.
Tell me when to say it. Here we go. Go. Good enough to fight, but not be equal. Thank y'all for joining me. I'm Stephen Williams. They call me the Good Bishop. You've been on Behind the Veil. You were destined to reach the top. You are beautiful for all to see. Simply put it, Mackenzie said, you're amazing. And if they disagree, say with me, never change who you are. You were made to reach the stars. Be true to you and you'll go far. Never change. Y'all ready? Do your oath. Everybody lift it up. Come on, say. When you get tired, that's it. Remember that. Never change who you are. Come on. Say it, Mackenzie. You're intelligent. Just the way you are. You were made to be a shooting star. No matter what others say. You were made to rule the day. And if somebody should disagree, my 6-year-old know this. You better take this time and say with me, never change who you are. You were made to reach the stars. Be true to you. You'll go far. I'm giving you the words. Never change who you are. You were made to reach the stars. Be true to you. You'll go far. Take your money off. Everybody come on in, say it now. Yes, you can take them off. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for joining me. Behind the Veil, Stephen Williams. Please join me for another information. Thank you, Sonny Miles, for your music. Myself and Mackenzie. We're going off with just the music playing. Never change who you are. You were made to be a shooting star. Go for it. Celebrate Juneteenth. Celebrate the 4th. But don't celebrate the 4th more than you celebrate Juneteenth. Wait a minute. If you just hear color. Go ahead and get your celebration on the 4th. But just remember, Juneteenth is when we got free. And we're still trying to get free right now. I love you guys. Thank y'all for listening to me tonight. Rant and rave. And thank you for listening to my daughter's song. Maybe it'll blow up. Somebody on YouTube will hear it and want to have her sing. Love you guys. Gotta go. Till our next appointed time. Stephen Williams here. They called me the Good Bishop. Thank you for joining me behind the veil. Bye-bye.